Usually hearing the word Goldilocks and the story behind that, along with business success, isn't something that tends to be well talked about in business circles, but it is one of the big keys for you to be able to step forward and have even more success. So let's dive in now and find out how you can find your Goldilocks pace and, as a net result, achieve more success. I think it would be quite challenging of us to get stuck into this if we didn't first quickly revisit Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So it's a 19th century fairy tale, as we know. Long story short, in actual fact, it was an old lady that went into the woods, and it did change, and eventually it became Goldilocks. So Goldilocks goes into the woods, finds a house. Three bears, which is Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby Bear, are actually out getting a walk, food. Can't remember the exact details of why, but they weren't at home. Anyway, Goldilocks goes in, sits in the big chair. It's too big or too hard. Sits in the small one. It's too small. It's this. She tastes the food. The one's too hot, one's too cold, one's just right, etc. And then falls asleep in the bed because one bed's too hard, one bed's too soft, and one's just right. And the whole premise of this whole thing is how we can then leverage this out into business is making sure that we have our own Goldilocks pace. We chat with our clients about this and getting the Goldilocks pace for your business right. And I just finished a mastermind session with some of our boardroom, and this becomes really crucial, particularly as your business starts to grow and scale. So what happens is we tend to pick up pace and we start off small. And the amount of times we've spoken to people and they'll say, I'm just a physio doing this, or I'm just an EP in a medical center doing such and such. Now, we get that with everything in all sorts of business and networking. Someone will say, I'm just a plumber, I'm just a this. But what happens is we have that mentality where we're just this, we're just small, we're just, and we start to get ourselves to move and grow. And over time, we do move and grow, and we start to pick up pace. Now, as we build and as we grow, the avenue to get the snowball effect happening from the top of the hill, and it gathers speed, gathers momentum, gathers size, is paramount to the story and the reason why we need to find your Goldilocks pace and stick to it. Because everyone has their just right pattern, their just right pace, aka the Goldilocks pace. And so not everyone is profoundly beneficial to running at a pace or working at a pace or scaling at a pace or growing at a pace that is the same. All right. So you might be there and know that you can't keep up the pace that other business owners do, that other competitors in, say, the local area do. But here's the thing. You're not meant to, because everyone has our own Goldilocks pace. And not only do we have our own personal Goldilocks pace, but we have our own business Goldilocks pace. So depending on how many practitioners you have, depending on what size of the business, what type of turnover, what clients you see, what service delivery you put out there, it will depend on how that translates into how fast or how slow you actually can move and grow and create things. Now, when we think about the mindset of a business owner, there are so many times that people get quite stressed or anxious because they feel like they're not moving fast enough. They feel like someone else is doing this or someone else is doing that, and if I don't do this, I have to do it, and then I have to, and we end up getting into overwhelm. People end up basically hyperventilating and feeling like they're not doing enough. Now, that in itself can lead to a whole lot of different challenges in and around, imposter syndrome and all sorts of things. But when we stop and think about it, it's just purely because we haven't found the Goldilocks pace that works best for them and that works for their business. So one of the major things about finding that is you've got to be able to sit down and actually have a bit of a look at what actually works best for you. And we hear people all the time talking about how they can't, work 70-hour weeks because they're burnt out. And so many people might have medical challenges or an emotional event that made them stop and think, or, put the handbrake on their forward plans and what they thought they were going to be able to do. I mean, I had a major medical scare about 13, 14, 15 years ago. Actually, maybe a touch more, to be totally honest. And that was the big wake-up call for me and the tap on my shoulder that enabled me to go and get things and do things a lot smarter and a lot more efficient. So to find your Goldilocks pace, unfortunately, some of us get it beaten into us because of medical reasons or an emotional event or a breakdown or something like that. So that's not the smartest way to do it. What we need to be able to do is we need to be able to stop and look at what we are doing, how many hours we're doing, what type of effect that has on the business and team and the growth. And we can look at our numbers and our dashboards in the last month or the last 2 months or 3 months and look at the time and energy and input that we've had and the net result and how that's tracking. And what we need to be able to do is take a little bit of, poetic license or creative license and just extrapolate that out. If I'm to continue working at this pace, at this time investment, money investment, mental and emotional investment, and it does keep tracking on the same avenue, is that something that I can sustain? What would be the pros of that and what would be the cons of that? Because most of the time, it will actually mean that you need to slow down, because most people in growth and scale phases realize before they get to the finish line that they can't sustain that approach. And that's like having the chair that's too big and hard in Goldilocks, or the bed that's too big and hard that you can't sleep on it. It's doing too much. It's not enabling you to work at a consistent and persistent Goldilocks pace that's good for you, the team, the business, and your clients. So let's not enable ourselves to get into that medical side or the emotional side or the depression or the mental health challenges or the financial pressures or the, maybe it's a personal family losing friends type scenario. We've got to not allow ourselves to get into that point. And there's very few business owners in our allied health industry that are then at the opposite end where they're doing too little. Because if you find yourself resonating with trying to find the happy medium for yourself and that Goldilocks pace right now, you'll realize that what you actually are doing is doing too much. Very rarely do we feel like we're not doing enough and feeling like we need to pick up the pace. The vast majority of time, in fact, I would probably struggle to think about the last colleague or client that's not actually doing enough. Granted, they might not be doing enough in certain areas and we need to re-divert their attention and their focus, put some blinkers on the racehorse as it's running down the straight at Flemington. But it's very rarely that we're not doing enough. So it's very rarely that we're working on the lower end, but we need to be able to pull ourselves back. We need to make sure that we smash out of the park that project that we're working on right now, that we have the Goldilocks pace to know that we are efficient and effective with what we do. That every time we invest time, energy, or money into this time or this task or this project or team member or business pursuit, that we're doing it in the right sustainable approach to make big changes, to have big growth and scale, large amounts of impact, all in the right reason and in the right way, and that we're not getting ourselves burnt out. Because it's always that we're doing too much and pushing too hard that we start to realize that we need to pull back. And so finding that Goldilocks pace, first of all, the easiest thing to do is do it from a financial point of view. Look at the numbers and your dashboards around what's happening with your growth and your revenue and compare that to the actual amount of time that you're investing into this. Go back 3 months and have a look at that as well. And if you've invested X amount of time and energy each day or each week or each month, and this has been the net result, you might find that your trajectory is exactly where it needs to be, but it's going to give you another 3 or 6 months of working at this type of level and pace. And we can very easily then start to sit back and go, well, if look at the detrimental side in the last 2 months of doing this, could I do that for another 4 or 5 months? Do I want to do that for 4 or 5 months? What would be the catastrophic effect of doing that for another 4 months, for instance? And do I really want to take that risk? And so most of the time, it's just some good, solid conversations that we can have with ourselves. Maybe we need to grab a colleague or a mentor or a life partner and sit down and have a bit of a review process. But I'd strongly feel that all of us need to do that. And it's probably something we need to do every 3 months in business, because we tend to become creatures of habit and start to push harder, do more, create more challenges and time periods for ourselves, where every 3 or 4 months we start to realize we're burning the candle at both ends. And so it's super important that we get ourselves that Goldilocks pace, that we find out where it is and make sure that we're best placed and in tune to be able to get some really good forward momentum for ourselves, personally and professionally, for our team, our business and our clients. And it's when we get that Goldilocks pace right that we actually start to realize a lot more about our own purpose. We start to become a lot more energized. We don't feel the need to drag ourselves out of bed. We know that we're actually applying ourselves 110% to everything and everyone. We're not just physically there, but we are actually present and really present. And we start to realize that when we're in that Goldilocks pace and that flow, we're actually going to be better people, achieving more and making so many great things happen. So it's not actually about running faster. It's not actually being able to see what other people are doing and work at a faster pace, or I have to do this, I have to do that. Because the vast majority of time, it's actually the opposite. It's about taking a break or stepping back, finding the Goldilocks pace and realizing that the pace that we're running at the moment isn't something that's just right for you. It isn't just right for where we're going to be. But when we find the Goldilocks pace and you can be there and have that in place, it is just right. It feels right. You know that you're getting the best return on your own, investment of time and energy and money, and we're going to get better output and better impact. So let's all take a few moments and have a bit of a look at where our Goldilocks pace is sitting, and are we actually in tune with that right now? Maybe we can step up a little bit, but for most of us, it's probably a matter of understanding that we're a little bit beyond where we should be. It's not just right and sustainable. So let's look to make some of those changes, create some more leverage, and be able to find the Goldilocks pace and step forward from there, because that's where your true calling is. That's where your most return on investment for yourself financially, emotionally, time-wise, for you, your family, your friends, your business, your team, your clients, ultimately lies. Let's go and get that Goldilocks pace. Let's review it every 3 months and make sure that we're on track with what's just right for us and just right for everyone else around us as well. I'll talk to you again very soon. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.